Welcome, friends, to a brand new episode of Never Seen It. This is a podcast about movies that we haven't seen yet. I'm your host this week. My name is Betsy, and I'm here with Trent.
Hello, everybody.
Trent, much to my surprise, we are 3 for 3. This is the third entry in this year's series for the Decade series. I have not seen this movie. You have not seen this movie. It is unusual that we make it through an entire series where there's stuff I should have watched by now.
Yeah, especially you.
But this one, I think I have a good excuse. Because today we are watching the Martin Scorsese movie, The Color of Money, which I did not know until very recently is a sequel to The Hustler.
A direct sequel.
A direct sequel starring Paul Newman playing the same character and starring Tom Cruise, which of course in the 80s, Tom Cruise, big fucking deal. But you and I had not actually seen The Hustler until just a few years ago because on Patreon, we have a show called The Wayback Machine that can send us anywhere in time from 1960 to 2010. And the last episode we did in our first year, we ended up in 1961 and we finally saw The Hustler. And I think you and I were both really surprised at how much we enjoyed The Hustler.
Yeah, for a lot of different reasons, because again, I don't really get down with a whole lot of older movies and older actors. I'm just not that interested in that era of film.
You are apprehensive, to say the least.
Sure, and I think you liked it a lot more than I did, but I still really enjoyed it. There's a lot of modern sensibilities about it. There's some kind of controversial things that were being done for 1961. And, you know, hey, it's Paul Newman. I had never seen another Paul Newman movie before. He was a big name in 1961, and I think he was still a really big name for 1986.
He's one of those actors from this era that actually managed to stay relevant his entire career. And he was making movies for almost another 20 years after The Color of Money.
Right.
But this is the significant movie because this is a guy who was nominated over and over and over again for Academy Awards. And it wasn't until The Color of Money that he finally won. So I do know this about the movie.
Okay.
But what else do you know about The Color of Money?
So you just said a little bit ago that this was a Scorsese movie. I don't think that I actually knew that until recently when we decided to do The Color of Money. And to be honest, these other Scorsese movies that are not the big Scorsese movies, we're covering here kind of randomly. We've been planning on doing a whole lot of Scorsese on this podcast, mainly because we just haven't seen a bunch of them. In fact, one of my favorite movies of last year was Cape Fear, the remake that Scorsese did about that movie. So the more and more that we see of earlier Scorsese, the more I am really appreciating his directing style.
Especially when it's the stuff that isn't about gangsters. It isn't the stuff that we think of immediately when we think of Scorsese.
I feel like these movies that we're talking about here, especially Cape Fear, he has an appreciation for these old school directors and the old ways of making movies.
So if you have the opportunity to make a sequel starring fucking Paul Newman, he's a guy who is immediately going to say, yes, please, sign me up.
I would like to do that.
I would like to make that movie.
Yeah, so I'm very interested to see what a Scorsese sequel to The Hustler would be. Because he's not afraid of violence. He's not afraid of, foul language. In 1986, we're beginning to be a lot more lenient about what you can actually put in your movie. And obviously, Tom Cruise is still a big deal. He is still on the come up, but he is a movie star in his own right.
This is the year he really tipped the scales from, he's a good actor who's on the rise to, that guy's a fucking star.
Right, he is a bankable star.
Yeah.
But besides, who made it, who's in the movie, obviously this is going to be surrounding Pool. I know that much. Tom Cruise is kind of like, what is his name? Fast Eddie? Yeah, it's Fast Eddie is the character that Paul Newman plays. He's another Fast Eddie where he's a cocky motherfucker. He's young. He wants to go and be the best. And the only way to be the best is to beat the best.
So they turn the tables in this one. He's the protege, and now Fast Eddie is the old guy who maybe hasn't been in the game for a really long time.
Yeah, and I don't know how they dig this guy up, because at the end of the Hustler episode, we were kind of speculating, okay, does he hang it up here? Does he ever pick up a pool cue ever again because of what he experienced in that movie?
Well, and they even say some of the other characters who could hurt him and do him harm say, you are
Right.
never going to set foot in another pool hall anywhere in this country. They basically say your days are done. You don't get to play this anymore.
I'm really curious how they are going to address that, or even if they address that.
Yeah, there is a certain expectation and a responsibility when you are making a legacy sequel. They didn't call them that in 1986, but that is
Sure.
what this is. This is
Right.
a legacy sequel through the eyes of Martin Scorsese. I don't know if he wrote the screenplay or somebody else did and he just directed it.
Yeah,
but,
I'm really curious about that too.
Yeah.
Like, who wrote this thing?
but it does ask a lot of questions. How has this guy changed in 25 years? Is he going to be mostly the same character? Are there going to be glimmers of him? It's always interesting to see when somebody revisits a character this many years later.
Yeah, and like, are you really going to see the scars that he is holding from
Yeah.
his earlier experiences?
Or has he changed completely? He's older and wiser and softer, or is he still a cocky son of a bitch?
And I'm really curious also, who's going to be the focus? Is it going to be the young hotshot, or are we going to be spending more time with Paul Newman? I'm really excited for this one, Betsy. So I think it's time.
I agree, Trent. So let's go. We're going to watch for 1986, The Color of Money, and then we will be right back. And that was from 1986, The Color of Money. Trent, how are you feeling right now?
I'm feeling pretty good after that one. I was a little, again, apprehensive coming into a legacy sequel of a movie that I did enjoy. And I kind of had some big expectations coming into this because it's Paul Newman reprising his role from 25 years ago. It is a classic movie for a reason. It's Martin Scorsese showing what he can do. And it's a young Tom Cruise really also showing what he can do opposite a living legend. It had some big expectations, and I feel like I'm not going to sit here and say he nailed it 100%, but damn did he get close. I really enjoyed this.
In the beginning of the movie, it was a little bit slow for me. I was like, am I going to like this? I don't know if I like this. But when they get to the part where Paul Newman picks up that cue for the first time and he racks him up and he cracks one just so loud, there's a little bit of a thrill that happened.
There's also kind of a jump in the
Yeah.
film, too. Like, oh, God, this is happening.
It's Fast Eddie back at the table, and he has not done this in 25 years. And there is a certain expectation where you're also associating Paul Newman, where he hasn't played this role in 25 years.
Right.
And then the scene with Forrest Whitaker where he gets hustled. All of a sudden, I saw Fast Eddie from 1961. That was the scene where all of a sudden I'm like, okay, I'm not looking at Paul Newman
Yeah.
playing a different guy. I'm looking at Paul Newman playing Fast Eddie the way he played him
Yeah.
25 years ago.
I re-listened to our episode about The Hustler that we did a few years ago, and one of the things that I said in that episode, which, by the way, if you're not already a member on Patreon, I highly recommend that you do so and listen to that episode because I think it's a great conversation. But one of the things that I said about his character was I wanted more of the emotional arc. I wanted him to, I don't know, go through more anguish. I wanted him to really show what he's feeling. Now, in that movie, he's the young whippersnapper who is going up against the big dogs and showing what he can do. And in this movie, it's just reversed, and he's the old timer trying to take the young kid under his wing and do whatever. I saw the same thing of him putting his fist on that wall and just kicking himself for allowing himself to be hustled because, I don't know, maybe he still has that inside of him where he thinks that he cannot be beaten.
that guy that he thought was long gone still exists inside him. And he's discovering that, oh my God, I still love doing this. I still love playing this game. And by the end of the movie, I'm just all in. I was all in by the end of it. Overall, I don't think the experience was perfect. Like you said, I think there are moments where it's great. There are moments where it's like, it's okay. But it's that thing that ends the movie. He close-up shot says, I'm back. It doesn't matter what fucking happens at this point. He has had an awakening. And this is not something you usually see in a sequel. Usually we pick up where we left off. They're the same person. Maybe they're a little older. Maybe they're a little wiser. It is unusual to have a sequel where somebody has retreated. The version of themselves that they used to be in the first movie has kind of gone into hibernation, and we don't see that character. And it takes a lot of this movie for that person to resurrect, if you will.
Yeah. And maybe it's just because I haven't really seen any other Paul Newman movies. So these two movies are all I have to really go off of. But you can see the maturity that he has gained in these 25 years. You have seen the learning that he's absorbed over these years as well. And you don't really get, and they don't dwell on what he's been doing in these 25 years since the first movie. And I don't know if that makes this a better movie or a worse movie, because obviously you're curious because he went through a tragic thing that happens in that movie. I'm not going to say what it is. But what you can say is that he hasn't retreated into being a normal quote-unquote guy. He hasn't gotten married to another woman and settled down with a bunch of kids and a white picket fence and shit like that. He is still himself. He is still out there trying to sling fucking booze to these same places that he was frequenting before. He knows all these people and everybody knows him.
But the hustle has changed. The thing that he used to do, he doesn't do anymore. And instead, he's selling them booze. He's a liquor salesman. And you know what? A smooth-talking, confident guy like he was in the first movie, he could make a killing doing anything he wanted.
And he also recognizes that in the Tom Cruise character because he goes to where he works. He works at a fucking, like, kids' furniture and kids' toy store. He sees him as he's working, and he is just selling the shit out of this fucking bullshit thing that I guess you put your kid into. It's like a swing.
Bouncy swing thing.
Yeah. He is seeing him in his element outside of the pool hall. And in a lot of other movies, you would think, oh, Tom Cruise says, I don't want you to see me here. I'm embarrassed for being here. Oh, no. He is proud of what he is able to do here. He says, this is my job, man.
Because he's a slick little salesman.
Yeah.
And he knows it. But that's another element of the movie, Trent, that it is a representation of we're making this a lot of years after the first one. We have to demonstrate how the world has changed. In 1961, it was not uncommon to have cities full of bowling alleys and pool halls and really communal activities that these guys would go and spend money on. You would drink, you'd hustle, you would make money, and then you'd move to the next place. In 1986, the different world that he is trying to walk into, he takes Tom Cruise to the pool hall where I assume is where Minnesota Fats kicked the crap out of him in the beginning of The Hustler.
Yeah.
Because it's this really iconic staircase and they open up into this big room and it's a fucking used furniture place. It's like a St. Vincent de Paul. And the look on his face when that part of his life is just gone. It's not there anymore.
He is so excited. As he is going up the stairs, he's saying, I'm really nervous here. I wasn't expecting to feel this way. Because I think in his heart of hearts, he's always wanted to go back to that, but maybe he was afraid that all these other, tragic things are going to come up in his mind again, or fuck, maybe there's some people around there that, he says somebody retired him. I don't know what that means. Are they referring to the fact that he is no longer, or he was threatened to, hey, you can't play pool around here or anywhere else? Is it that?
Yeah, at the end of the movie, George C. Scott tells him, you can't ever set foot in another pool hall or we're going to kill you. Basically, this is the end. You have been retired. Don't ever show your face around here and all will be well. But if you show up, we're going to kill you. And that's why he stops. But at the end of The Hustler, he's happy enough to do it because he's in such a bad place because of, as you said, something else happens in his life that he doesn't get the joy he used to. He shows up, he does what he sought out to do, and he's happy to retire. And that's where we leave him. So to know there is a sequel, it's like, how do you pick this up? What do you do after that? Has he stood by that? Has he retreated? Has he recovered? Where is he in his life? But it's clear, the thing that is clear is he has not picked up a pool cue. That's the thing that is for sure. And when he goes up to the top of those stairs and that pool hall where he had some of the best and simultaneously worst experiences at pool in his life, it's just gone. And they keep doing that over and over and over again. The places that he can actually take Tom Cruise to play are shitholes.
Yeah.
It is not an elegant game anymore. It is not so popular that, oh, that's so-and-so and that's so-and-so and you have a reputation and you're the best in the country. It has become a sport relegated to a very small group of individuals. And he is a reflection of that. Nobody knows who Fast Eddie is now. He got retired and no one knows who he is. He's just some old guy who comes and talks to Tom Cruise.
There are very, very few people still around this life, I guess, who remember who he was. One of them was that one guy in that pool hall that they go into where Tom Cruise completely disobeys him and he says, you know what, I don't want anything to do with you anymore. But to go back to what you were saying about him not picking up a pool cue, I don't know if that's accurate. He's not hustling anymore, but he is taking people under his wing still, because when we meet him for the first time, he's got John Turturro. Hey, by the way, he's in this movie, but he is coaching John Turturro to play pool. Now, is that showing him like basics? Is he showing him trick shots? Is he showing him how to hustle people? We don't actually see that.
I think it's probably the latter. He's working with him on the hustle. He just isn't very good at it. I think the long and short is this is the guy who was the best he could find, and he could be adjacent to the game without getting involved in the game. I don't think personally he has picked up a cue in a very long time. And maybe it's just because they don't do it in the movie right away, but they also don't talk about it.
No.
He just kind of talks about it in past tense most of the time.
Yeah, when he does talk about it, it's the 25 years ago. It's everything from the first movie. He hasn't picked it up since.
Yeah, those days are long gone. That's not who I am anymore, etc., etc. I'm an old man.
And I like later on when they have their separation here and Paul Newman just wants to get back at Tom Cruise. He essentially has to go back to fundamentals. When he decides to go and do it, I'm going to pick up this pool cue again and I'm going to enter this tournament, come what may. He goes to the eye doctor and gets himself some glasses. Then he goes into that one pool hall, sets up all the balls, and starts just moving the ball around with the cue. Again, getting a feel for how the balls are moving, how his eyes are picking up how it's moving and whatnot. Again, it's going back to fundamentals. He's got all the skill still, but he hasn't had to use them forever.
That's why I'm saying I don't think he's been playing very much at all. Like, yes, some of it is coming back like riding a bike, but in this point, he gets hustled. He got hustled by Forrest Whitaker and he didn't see it coming. And he's so mad at himself and he's so mad that he didn't see it that he has to go back to basics. And it's a training sequence. He spends the next 3 weeks before Atlantic City figuring out how the hell to play this game again by himself, without anybody else, without the stakes. Then as he's getting more comfortable, we start seeing him play other people.
Yeah, and he's not trying to hustle people. He is just out there trying to play.
Yeah.
Because what he ends up doing is entering a legit tournament. But what happens at the end was kind of, I don't know, were you surprised at what happened between those two, between Tom Cruise and Paul Newman, where Tom Cruise says, oh, actually, it was just a fucking work. I threw that game. I made $8,000. You're welcome. Here's your cut.
I liked that it didn't go in a place I expected it to, because in this kind of movie, You have the guy who's the old timer, you have the protege, and you expect them to have this epic showdown. And Eddie says to Tom Cruise's girlfriend, I'm going to beat him. You know I'm going to beat him, right? And then they have this game and Tom Cruise loses. So it's not that big a surprise, but it's also not the end of the movie. It's not the final scene. If it was the final scene, if it was the championship, that would have been super cliche.
And they don't actually build it up as if it was this climactic thing.
No, it is literally several brackets from the end of the tournament. And Eddie wins. And it is this great moment for him because he beats somebody that he fundamentally knows is exceptionally good at pool.
Yeah, and maybe one of the greatest moments in the movie is when he walks out the door outside for just a second and he goes, yeah.
He has a tiny celebration.
Yeah.
Because it's the best feeling he's had in 25 years. And for Tom Cruise to waltz in and say, I thought that's what you wanted. I threw the game, and it was really hard for me to do that.
It's like, hey, I did what you taught me to do. I made a side deal to get out of the tournament. I made more money doing this rather than just going for the win.
But that is not what Eddie Felson is about. And if you've seen The Hustler, you would know that about him.
Yeah.
He just wants to beat the best. The whole movie in 1961 is about him finding the best and beating them, and not just winning, beating them, so that he truly knows he's the best. So when Tom Cruise throws it, it crushes him.
Yeah, he has nothing left. He doesn't have the passion for it anymore. The next day when he goes back to the tournament, he's completely lost it. He has no drive to beat this guy. He has no drive to win the tournament because I don't think he needs the money, number one.
It's more a pride thing. He doesn't feel like he belongs there because he knows he didn't genuinely win his spot.
He's also, at his core, a hustler. He is not a professional pool player. He will lie, cheat, and steal in order to win money off of you. Because there's a great line in the movie, and I can't remember if it was in the first movie or just this one. Money that you win is twice as sweet as money that you earn from like a job. So the money that he earns from, selling booze to different bars around there, that's easy for him. He's a great salesman. But the thrill of actually beating somebody at their own game, taking money off them, is just that much more sweet.
Which is why he can't keep going forward in this tournament, because it's lost the fun. It's lost the whole meaning of why he entered the tournament in the first place, and why the last thing we actually see in the movie is him playing Vince. He says, I want your best game. I don't want you to come in here and hustle me and let me win. I want your best game. And if I don't beat you today, I'll beat you next month. And if I don't beat you then, I'll beat you at the next tournament. Because the tournament circuit is now all he's really got. You can't just go town to town and hustle people in pool halls anymore.
Yeah.
It's not the culture of 1986.
I love how he kind of talks here about even the change in game. Like now it's 9-ball. When he was coming up, it was straight pool. And we talked about straight pool in that episode. Straight pool is with all of the balls on the table and you do whatever it is that you do in straight pool. 9-ball is very different. You can literally win a game with the break. If you get the 9-ball in the pocket, you win. But what he also says about 9-ball here is that it's good for TV. You hear a lot more breaks and it makes it more exciting for an audience. And by this time, I think ESPN was already on the air and you could put something like pool on TV. And he also kind of laments the fact that it's becoming a skill game and not necessarily a mental game. Because back in his day, he was trying to suss out, okay, how else can I beat you other than just being better than you?
It's all about character and how long can you stand this game, because they have a stretch where they play for 40 hours at the beginning of The Hustler. 4-0. It is an endurance game. It is a game of wills. Like, who's going to give first?
He compares the two different kinds of games and the two different eras to chess and checkers. And they sell a whole lot more boards of checkers than they do chess. But chess requires a whole lot more mental ability and, physical ability too.
It's another reason that the times are changing. It's another demonstration that he is in a new world that he doesn't fully understand.
It's a whole generational thing, and I think that is really what is at the core of this movie.
Which does make for an interesting sequel this many years on.
Yeah.
But that seems like a good place for us to take a quick break for a word from our sponsor, and then we will be right back to talk more about The Color of Money. Are your ears tired of the same boring podcasts? Is the wait until the next episode of Never Seen It too much to bear? Then why not try Never Seen It premium content? The exclusive episodes on patreon.com/neverseenitpod take care of those hard-to-clean areas in your mind. It can handle dramas, romance, horror, and so much more. Use Never Seen It premium content during dental work, while skydiving, or even in your car. It's even gluten-free. So what are you waiting for? Try patreon.com/neverseenitpod today. So we've talked pretty much about Eddie and Paul Newman in this movie. We have not talked much yet about Tom Cruise. Trent, this is the year, as I alluded to, that he really broke as a star. This is the same year that Top Gun came out, okay? So 1986, pretty significant year for him. But this dude, he's like 23 years old when this movie comes out. And he is such a shit in this film.
Yeah.
In a way that I am not used to when it comes to Tom Cruise performances.
He is such a little boy. And as you said, I wasn't really expecting him to be like this, to act like this. I expected him to be basically another Paul Newman, where he's going to be really charming and slick and have every woman on his arm, but he has the girlfriend and he's just got it down. And maybe he just needs one more extra bit of help to get to the next level.
He knows how to play the game. He doesn't know the hustle.
But no, he's just doing this in his spare time. He is essentially discovered by Paul Newman. Like, hey guy, I don't know what you're doing here for these $20 fucking hustles that you think that you're doing here, but you can make so much more money. And I've seen it. I've experienced it. This is how you can do it. And from that point, you see Tom Cruise just go his own way at every single turn. He doesn't listen to a goddamn thing that Paul Newman says. He is dismissive of all of the advice that he's trying to give him, and all he wants to do is win, and he's not listening to any of the advice about this is how you really hustle people. My favorite sequence in the movie is in that kind of second pool hall where they spend a lot of time. It's where he does his fundamental things later on. When they walk in there, they're kind of scoping out all the people at all the tables. He says, okay, this guy, you want to avoid that guy because he's the hot shit in this place, and you don't necessarily want to go after him. I know you can beat him, but don't do it yet. This other guy is where you want to start out. I want you to lose to him. I want you to do this to this guy. And then this other guy, he just likes to play. He comes in here with like $5,000-$6,000 in his pocket.
It's all about catching the big fish. But you have to be strategic.
You have to
get
work
the big fish.
up to that, exactly, because they don't know you.
And once they see what you can do, you're going to scare everybody off.
Exactly. You're gonna scare away all the big fish. You got to go after the small guys first. And he says when he's outside berating him, Tom Cruise says, well, I made money. No, dude, you lost money. You earned $150 when we had like $6,000 on the line. You lost money, man.
He loves winning, but he doesn't have patience. He hates losing. He is a hothead. But he does still have that Tom Cruise charm. You cannot help but like him at different points of the movie.
Yeah.
But
he cannot see the fact that you just like found a gold mine. You took one nugget out of it and you threw a bomb into the rest, and it completely collapses after that. This town is dead for us.
He cannot see the big picture at any point of this movie. When they get to the next town and they come across Grady or whatever his name was, who is a known player, who is somebody that you want to play against, yes.
Yeah.
But you want to lose because then going into the tournament, your odds are exceptionally low,
Yeah.
which means we can place bets and win more money if you win.
Exactly. It's all of the side
all
bets.
strategy.
It's all the side bets. Again, you're coming at this from a tournament player. We're coming at this as a hustler. Do you want to make money or do you want to win a tournament? Those are two different things.
And the whole movie, fucking Tom Cruise, Vince wearing his name on his t-shirt
Yeah.
is just like whipping his cue around like he's a ninja or some bullshit and dancing and winking. And he's got that big pompadour. And it's like, who the fuck is this guy?
Who is this kid? To the point, Betsy, there's a moment here where he is literally jumping on the hotel bed with his girlfriend.
He is such a child compared to Paul Newman, who is trying to be a mentor and trying to talk to him like an adult.
Wearing a suit everywhere he goes,
Yes.
even to the dingiest fucking pool halls in existence.
He is always a class act and another visual symbol that times have changed and these are different people. The game is different. Tom Cruise plays this game differently than you do. And it doesn't matter the amount of time you try to coach him and talk to him like a grown-up and teach him the hard lessons the hard way.
And also recruit the girlfriend who seems to have a really good head on
She
her
gets
shoulders.
it.
She totally gets it. But he is uncontrollable. And I think that is Paul Newman's biggest frustration. He knows that Tom Cruise is just a kid, and he's trying to mold him into something that he's not. But he says at one point when he walks in on her in her fucking underwear, like, hey, use what you got. Use your body. Use the fact that you two are an item. Use that against him. And she does. At the next big thing, she goes over there, strolls over there, and whispers in his ear, essentially, hey, I'm not gonna fuck you anymore if you win another one of these games. So fucking lose. Stop this.
You need to lose right now or everything from here on out means nothing.
Yeah. We're losing out on so much potential money here just because you want to beat this guy right now. You can beat him later.
Because he has no patience and all ego, which it's not unusual. We talked about Top Gun. He, in that movie, has a ton of ego.
Yeah, it is a dangerous, dangerous combination.
But here, he feels about 5 years younger in this movie
He does.
than in Top Gun, which is made the same year.
Yeah.
And I don't know if it's just the energy he is bringing and the way he is made up. He has an earring, which I have never seen him do in a movie. He's got a ridiculous pompadour.
He never stops
He
smiling
never
either.
stops smiling. And he could be so much more. But at the end of the movie, Trent, I don't know if you noticed, when he gets to the tournament, he has taken a tiny lesson from Eddie because he's not wearing his blue jeans and his leather jacket anymore. He's kind of dressed like Eddie and everybody else at this tournament. He is in the appropriate outfit. He does fit the mold. He plays the part in this moment. And he's had 3 weeks on the road where he is preparing for this. But he does exactly the opposite of what Paul Newman wanted. The reason Paul Newman goes out on his own in this is all of the things we're saying. He cannot get through to this kid. And it's the mentality of if you want something done right, you got to do it yourself, which is why he cuts him loose, says, I'm no good for you. I've taught you everything I can teach you. Go, God be with you. I'm going to learn how to do this on my own. And he ends up at the tournament. And Tom Cruise, the one time he does, quote unquote, what he wants, it's not what he wanted anymore.
Yeah.
He wanted him to go out and be great. But that was when Eddie was sitting on the bench, when Eddie was not participating. The second Eddie gets involved and Tom Cruise suddenly does what he wants, he's just like, what the fuck is wrong with you? But it is just interesting overall to see Tom Cruise in this supporting role, a true supporting role, where if you think about it, Trent, do we have any scenes from his perspective? I don't think there's a single scene in the movie that is him as the focal point, save when he arrives at the pool hall, flashes the fancy cue, and then he proceeds to play. I think that's the extent of it.
Yeah, when he goes off on his own and he wins against, the pool hall champ, as it were. But Paul Newman is not too far behind him. He witnesses him winning, and then he, dresses him down outside. But you're right. This movie is all about Paul Newman, even though Tom Cruise is the hot new actor on the scene, And Paul Newman is the old guy coming back for one last job. Hashtag one last job, Betsy. And I did not know going into this that it was going to be so focused on Paul Newman. I'm glad that it is, though, because we did enjoy The Hustler so much. And I feel like his character needed to have some kind of a payoff, or at least a continuation of his character. And Tom Cruise doesn't get in the way. His character does not get in the way here. And I credit that to Martin Scorsese. I credit that to the writer of the movie. And honestly, I think this is a good enough spot for us to just talk about how the movie looks, how the movie is made, because there's not much else to talk about here except for the gal, which apparently she also got nominated for Best Supporting Actress.
Yeah, it got nominated for a few Academy Awards, but of course the big one that everyone remembers is Paul Newman finally won.
And well deserved. But yeah, we talked a whole lot in the Hustler episode about, man, does this look fucking cool.
It had a lot of style. It's shot in black and white.
Yeah, even for a black and white movie, it's just oozing style. And this one is no different. From all of the different pool sequences, there's a lot of montage shots of a whole lot of pool being played. And there's some weird camera tricks too, especially, I mean, think about how Martin Scorsese was the first film director to put a camera inside a boxing ring. When he did Raging Bull, that was a revolutionary movie-making thing. He does a similar thing here. He puts a camera on the goddamn pool table and captures all that footage.
You are exceptionally close to these cues and balls at different points of the movie.
It looks incredible, to the point where there's even like a slow motion shot where you see all the fucking chalk coming off the ball.
Or the shot where Eddie decides he's going to forfeit. Right before he does it, he sees his own reflection in the ball.
Yeah.
And I don't know if that was done in post or he just got a very, very shiny pool ball.
He polished the shit out of that one.
It wouldn't surprise me because Martin Scorsese, especially in these days, was a pretty tactile kind of director.
Yeah, and I also really like all the editing done here. We don't really talk a whole lot about editing in movies, but all the really quick cuts to, I mean, you can't show all these games because apparently in tournament play, you got to win like best of 20? You got to win 11 games. That is way too much pool to film and actually have it be interesting for an audience.
No, but there's select moments that can make it interesting, like when the tournament starts and everybody breaks simultaneously. That crack at all of those tables all at once.
Oh my God, yes.
Oh my God, the sound editing is phenomenal.
Definitely. And I already mentioned all the different montage shots of all these balls clanking together. And there's even one sequence here where there is a superimposed kind of static shot of Paul Newman's face as he is just concentrating on Tom Cruise playing. But underneath that is all of the really quick edits of them playing together. Honestly, it's probably one of the most impressive things shown to me in the movie. I know exactly what's happening here. I know who is winning. I know who is losing. I know what these other people are feeling.
And what is important in the moment is how Eddie is feeling, which is why we stay focused on him for so long while this is going on. But yeah, there's some cool things he does there. He also has the shot when Eddie starts training. He is alone in the pool hall, and the camera pans across backwards like 6 tables. I don't know how they did that. They've got it suspended or like a large crane that goes sideways. I have no idea.
Yeah, it's on some kind of arm over the top of all these pool tables. And he does a similar thing here early on in the movie. Paul Newman has already left the pool hall. He's getting into his car to leave, and he's pissed off. Tom Cruise is following him. We see Tom Cruise exit the building, go across the street, and the camera itself is just tracking Tom Cruise's movements. And then the camera is pointed kind of parallel to the car. It's in front of Paul Newman's face when he is in the car. And Paul Newman says, "Hey, get out of here, kid. You pissed me off." He drives away. The camera is attached to the car.
They basically must have had a chair of some kind strapped to the car, to the hood of the car, and the cameraman is just strapped in going for a ride.
I have no idea how that happened there, because they didn't really have a whole lot of these apparatuses to attach like huge camera equipment to vehicles yet.
filmmakers in those days were scrappy. They had
to be, yeah.
There's also the shot when he gets to Atlantic City and it's like a fucking crane. They're way up at the top of the room and then they sink down and then they come out behind Paul Newman's head.
Yes. So many really, really impressive shots here. I mean, say what you will about Martin Scorsese and how he makes his movies. He makes his movies look fucking interesting. I want to watch this movie regardless of what's happening in the movie. I want to look at it.
And he does that signature zoom in many times in this one.
Yeah. And of course, it wouldn't be a Scorsese movie without him putting himself into the movie either. Because if you did not know, the voiceover talking about Nine Ball, that's Mr. Scorsese himself.
And you know, speaking of voiceovers, it just occurred to me that Scorsese worked with both Paul Newman and his wife because Joanne Woodward is the narrator in The Age of Innocence.
Okay.
A few years later. I didn't think about that until just now. But yeah, you know, he had a reputation at that point. He could get the big gets.
At this point in his career, yeah. I mean, Scorsese was a big name even in the mid-'80s. I think Raging Bull came out in 80, I think.
That sounds about right. But the 80s are kind of an interesting decade for Martin Scorsese when you think about his filmography, because most of the stuff we talk about is either in the 70s or the 90s.
Right. And maybe this era of Scorsese gets a little bit forgotten about. I mean, I didn't know that he made this movie.
I think it's because it's so different from what we're used to. This is him truly just directing something that he felt passionate about.
I guess.
Versus kind of the cliche stuff, as I mentioned, where it's a gangster movie or a black and white gritty street drama set in New York. I don't know.
Or, you know, a movie about Jesus.
Yeah, that's the stuff he was doing in the 80s where he was well known, but he hadn't really made it as the guy that we talk about.
He wasn't Martin Scorsese
No,
yet.
he was still building that reputation.
Yeah.
Well, I just had a couple more things I wanted to talk about before we wrap up this episode.
Yeah, I got nothing left.
So the first thing, why is Iggy Pop in this movie?
You know, if you can get Iggy Pop, why wouldn't you put him in your movie?
I mean, I guess so, but I did an absolute double take.
He doesn't have any lines.
He has no lines. He's just in the montage when they're traveling across the country and they play pool against him. He is like skinny pool player or something. That's his credit. And if you weren't paying attention, you could easily miss him. And then secondly, I think we just have to touch on the scene where Tom Cruise is lip singing and dancing to Werewolves of London while he is playing pool. It is the most Tom Cruise moment in the movie to me.
Yeah, there's some really great needle drops in this movie too that I was not expecting, that being one of them. Because it starts off with Paul Newman in the car going after him in that pool hall, which is also right after he accosts his girlfriend in the hotel room.
He basically threatens her and says, I'm not your dad. I'm not your boyfriend. Don't use your bullshit on me. Use it on him.
Right. Like, this is a business deal between the three of us here, and there's no time for extra bullshit.
Yeah, put your tits away, basically.
Yeah.
I know what you're trying to do, and it's not going to work on me. You're
Happens
wasting
like
your
three
time.
different times in the movie, too.
Yeah.
She's just hanging out there. I mean, obviously, he barges in on them.
One time, maybe.
But she's not like covering up and like shutting the door. No, she's just standing there naked, which honestly just makes me wonder more about her. Give me more of her character. Has she done this before? Has she had a boyfriend that she's trying to coach up like this? I don't know.
She does have that energy of she likes guys who are winners, but she never really suggests that she's going to leave this guy. The only times we get that suggestion, it comes from Eddie when he is constantly hustling other people. He's specifically hustling Vince.
I love the Two Brothers and a Stranger bit that they do together. That was really great. And of course, Tom Cruise is jealous and he says, you got your hands all over. Tom, this is called professional acting. Maybe you should look it up one of these days. Anyway, no, I got nothing else, Betsy. I like this movie quite a bit. For 1986, it is very much of the time. And we try to go out of our way here when we do our decade series to pick a movie that very much is epitomizing where we are in the country, where we are in cinema. And it is going back to what we said before about this being a generational change. Paul Newman being the old guy that he was, Tom Cruise being the young upstart that he was. And really the last thing I want to say here is that the reviewers of the time really understood what this movie meant. Because everybody was talking about the death of the movie star. This is the passing of the torch from one generation to another. Tom Cruise is probably, at this time in 2026, the last movie star.
The last true movie star, the bankable guy that will always crank out some hit or another. It's really hard to reproduce in these days, but you're right. It was the crossroads of Paul Newman still worked for a good 10, 20 years after this. He even got nominated for a couple more Academy Awards after this. But, you know, by the early 2000s, he's voicing a car. It's very different from what he was doing in his early days. Meanwhile, Tom Cruise, everybody's saying now before the movie is even released, this is the year he's going to win an Academy Award because he's finally done with Mission Impossible and he's doing something with a really prestigious director and he's doing something really different that's going to tap back into that acting Tom Cruise we used to get in the 80s and 90s. We'll see, Trent.
Remains to be seen about Digger.
Yeah. We don't know anything about Digger at this point. When
Nobody
this episode
does.
Is coming
Nobody
out.
does.
We have to wait quite a few more months before we get that. But that is neither here nor there. It is, however, the end of this episode for The Color of Money. Please, we would love to hear from you. Do you love this legacy sequel? Do you love Paul Newman? Where do you rank this one? Where do you rank this for Tom Cruise movies? The man has 40 plus years in his career at this point. I'm curious if you've even seen this one because it is not technically one of his movies, quote unquote. He is not the star of this movie, so it wouldn't surprise me if people hadn't watched it. We hadn't watched it until just now. But send us those thoughts, neverseenapod@gmail.com.
But guess what, Betsy?
What's that, Trent?
We don't have any emails yet.
No, apparently people didn't watch the Bad News Bears in as many numbers as we thought they had.
Yeah, and we're also doing this a little bit in advance. We're trying to get ahead of things. Where have you heard this before? We're really busy this summer, so we're kind of having to record ahead and not allow some, people to be commenting on our stuff yet. But guys, we still want you to tell us what you thought about these episodes, about these movies, and whatnot.
We've got 7 decades in this series, so there's a lot of ground we're covering. So again, send us those thoughts, neverseenapod@gmail.com.
Go check out all of the other decade series movies.
Absolutely. We've done this 5 years in a row now, so you've got a lot of episodes you can reference. You could also send us a message on any of our social media. As we keep saying, unfortunately, our Twitter account got hacked and doesn't seem to be coming back to us anytime soon. So if you want to reach out to me or to Trent personally. We're still on there, but we don't have an account for the pod anymore. We do have accounts on Blue Sky, Instagram, Facebook, a lot of other places you can reach out to us if you're not so much into email. We don't care how you send it to us. We just want to hear from you.
But that being said, I'm kind of getting soured on the idea of social media. I already am, if you've ever heard me talk about such things in the past. And yeah, I'll just leave it there.
Yeah, if you guys don't talk to us, it's not going to be fun. And if it's not fun, we'll just leave. I'm going to guilt trip you into hanging out with us over there.
Oh, God, we're going to stop the podcast if you don't talk to us.
That's exactly right. It's come to this, Trent. I'm going to threaten people, but in like a begging kind of way.
Okay, fine.
And of course, we've mentioned it many times already, but if you have not subscribed, please visit patreon.com/neverseenitpod, where you can listen to episodes like The Hustler, because as we said, we did that episode not that long ago. And it was a good conversation, and we probably wouldn't have put that movie on if it had not been for us doing a Patreon show.
Yeah, the Wayback Machine show has really encouraged us to look backwards and appreciate movies that are from the way past that we wouldn't normally cover on this show. But it helps us discover some movies and even some series of movies that we wouldn't have encountered otherwise.
And if you're tuning into these episodes for the Decade series, that show in particular is going to be something you'll really like.
Yeah, there's a lot of old stuff in there, a lot of classic stuff, and it's just some surprising stuff that, sometimes we don't have a lot to say, but what we do have to say is gold. I will say that much.
We always have fun with that show in particular. But that's going to do it for 1986 and The Color of Money. But we are going to be hitting our halfway point next week in our Decade series with 1996. Trent, what movie will we be talking about next week?
Well, Betsy, if the 90s were for anything movie-related, they had a whole lot of courtroom dramas. And next week, we're going to be covering one of the all-time greats. We will be watching A Time to Kill. A title, to me, sounds like it's a completely different kind of movie.
Well, I guess I don't really know because it's going to be a first-time watch for both of us. So come back next week for A Time to Kill. Until then, thank you for listening. My name is Betsy.
And my name's Trent.
And we'll see you next week.